Move on to next presentation. It is my privilege to introduce Dr. Rosida Kunil, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, IIT Palakkad. He is our proud alumnus. She completed her graduation from Farouk College. Her PhD in theoretical and computational chemistry was from IQ, Barcelona Institute of Science and Technology, Spain. Her postdoctoral research was from University of Pittsburgh and George August University of Göttingen. She received many awards, including FPU PhD grant from Ministry of Spain for promising future university professors. She has awarded diploma in teaching assistantship from Universitat Rovira Virgili, Spain. She is a recipient of Charisma Cost short-term scientific mission fellowship for conducting research in international university from European Union Charisma Cost organization. On behalf of ESCS 2021 organizing committee, I welcome you, ma'am, for your presentation. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sumaya. So let me share my screen. Yeah. Good morning, almost good afternoon, actually. So good morning, everyone. Myself, Rosida Kunil, currently a faculty at IIT Palakkad. So maybe I'll directly go to my timeline. So I have started from Farouk College. I did my bachelor's from there in 2008-2011. Later on, I moved to IIT Bombay and I finished my master's from there. Then later I joined for PhD at ICIQ, which is a part of Barcelona Institute of Science and Technology. The institute is basically here in Tarragona, which is a part of Catalonia. And then in between my PhD, I moved to Hirovat University for 3 months as a short-term scientific mission supported by Charisma Cost European Union organization. Further, I moved for my postdoctoral research with Professor Kaman at University of Göttingen, Germany, and also further to University of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I dropped that in between to join at IIT Palakkad. So this is my career timeline. This may look very fancy, but I'll come to this after my talk if I have some time to interact with the students. Okay. So today's talk will be based on computational insights on unprecedented catalytic reactions. So before moving further, I would like to thank the organizers, Professor Pradeep and the committee members for giving me an opportunity to present. So this is basically my first presentation after coming back to India. I would say maybe after 8 years. So yeah, so I'm glad that I'm part of this program conducted by Farouk College. Yeah, so far, so unlike other speakers, all my topics for today's discussion will be based on my PhD as well as postdoctoral research, because I have joined as a faculty at IIT Palakkad quite recently. So far, I have been working on a few areas which I have mentioned here. So my prime area of interest was to work on unprecedented reactions. Also, I have worked with several photocatalytic, CH activation, CO2 activation, organocatalysis, decarboxylation, and transition metal catalysis. So basically, I'm a computational chemist. Other than the independent projects, I used to work with experimental collaborators, and I also worked in experimental groups as well. Yeah, so for today's discussion, I will be mainly focusing on the use of DFT, which we found to study the factors which influence the selectivity, and especially for the unprecedented reaction, is there any way to suggest a novel mechanism, and how theory and experiment go well hand in hand to tackle many of the problems under the areas which I have mentioned before. Yeah. So today's discussion will be based on mainly three topics, which is photo-induced CHRylation, CHRylation of fluoroarenes, and formation of Z-allylic amine. So all three of them represent each stage of my career. So let's move to the first topic, which is photo-induced CHRylation. Yeah. So this is basically the work which I did during my postdoctoral research in the group of Professor Ackermann at University of Göttingen, Germany. So if some of you are interested to look further into this university, this is basically a university which contributed around 40 Nobel laureates. So for example, Bohr, Max Planck, whoever you call, they have either studied or they might be a teacher or a lecturer or a professor working there. So this is basically, you might be thinking why it's like a lot of people. It has some connection with the World War. So you can just go through the history of this university and see what actually happened during those days. So if I remember correctly, the last person whom they got was 2 years back, Stefan Hell, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So he's also a lecturer in this university back in those days. Okay. So this is basically a collaborative, not a collaborative project. I actually work in the group of Professor Ackermann, and they have this theory as well as experimental session. Large experimental session, but very few, theoretical students work there. So here, what I was assigned to work with the group of, work with Kokit. He was a student, he was a PhD student that time. So he came up with a nice idea about this reaction, which is basically ruthenium catalyzed CHRylation of phenylpyridine at ambient temperature, which is very important. In the press by using visible light without any external photocatalyst. So these are the characteristics of this reaction. This basically, so what we were interested is that this was an unprecedented reaction. No report came before regarding this similar kind of reaction, especially the visible light induced ones. So what my role was to find a mechanism. So finding a mechanism which was already reported and then modifying it was simply easy. You just need to work on that. But if you don't have any idea what's happening inside, then you have to slowly start from the very basic level, and then you have to slowly build the mechanism. So here, what I tried to do was, we don't know what is a catalytically active species, whether ruthenium parathymine complex is a catalytically active species, and how this reaction can be worked in the absence of a photocatalyst. So these all things were the questions which was faced by myself and to solve it. Okay. So first thing what we did was we need to find what is the catalytically active species. So what we did was we tried to check the absorption wavelength of almost all the possible ruthenium complexes. So it contains parathymine coordinated, parathymine non-coordinated, monocyclomethylated, bicyclomethylated, several species. And what we observed interestingly is that the bicyclomethylated complex is the only ones. For example, 10, 11, 10A, 11A, this has the maximum absorption of around, which comes in the visible region. So our first step was set. And meanwhile, in order to support our findings, Kokit has came up with the nice experiment where he has proved that the monocyclomethylated complex will not catalyze this reaction when he used a monocyclomethylated complex. But when he add potassium acetate, what happens is that which actually enables the bicyclomethylation. And this is how they proved that some bicyclomethylated complex was catalyzing this reaction. And unfortunately, in this reaction, they were unable to get any intermediates. They cannot isolate any intermediates. So that was one risky part of this project, because we don't have any experimental proof. But we have some evidences like this in order to proceed further. So moving forward, what we observed that, let's say, for example, 11, and the values which I have given here in parentheses is basically the energy, relative energy. And you can see that the 11 is comparatively stable. So we thought to, look into the details of the orbital. We thought to look into the orbital analysis as well as the, excited state here that we have already, where is it? Yeah. So here we have already studied the absorption properties. So what we observed that in their excited state, what we can see that there is a strong metal to ligand charge transfer process occurring for the species 11. And when we check the ground state, what we could observe is that from the orbital analysis, we can see that this is well in agreement with the metal to ligand charge transfer process, which we have observed. So then we are basically, getting close to the designing the mechanism. So what we have either the species 10 going back. So we have selected species 10 as well as 11 because that is more stable compared to the dioxane substituted. Dioxane is the solvent here. So dioxane substituted complexes, ruthenium bismethylated complexes, bicyclomethylated complexes. So we thought to study or start the reaction with 10 as well as 11, which we consider this might be our catalytically active species. So let me start with the complex 10, where 10, the L is basically your acetic acid, okay, the ligand. So once we, calculate the excitation, we propose that this, get excited to singlet excited state. By the intersystem crossing, this can reach to the triplet excited state. From there, the way it can transfer the electron from the metal complex to the phenyl iodide is through outer sphere electron transfer, because phenyl iodide is not coordinated into the ruthenium complex. You will see the other mechanism soon. Yeah, we will discuss it soon. So so far what we have is from a excited triplet state, which we have obtained for the ruthenium bicyclomethylated complex, and by outer sphere electron transfer, what happens is that we get a transition state. By the way, we cannot calculate, we cannot find a transition state corresponding to this given here, because this is an outer sphere electron transfer, which we have calculated by using Marcus theory and Savin's model. So here you can see that it goes for a very large barrier. So that is how we thought, let's try with the other complex, which is 11. So our idea is to make a inner sphere electron transfer. So basically inner sphere electron transfer, how it happens is that if phenyl iodide is coordinated, and then we thought to excite it, and then when it undergo the relaxation to the triplet state by intersystem crossing, what we thought was to try the direct transition state. So basically this involves inner sphere electron transfer. And then what we have found that very interestingly, after the radical recombination and all, the formation of ruthenium-4 complex is highly feasible. And the further from the stable ruthenium-4, when it undergoes the reductive elimination, this barrier is quite low. So basically what we have achieved here is that by being in the limit of DFT, we could explain that the process of inner sphere electron transfer is more favorable. So with this, what we did was we came to the conclusion that the most plausible pathway for this mechanism, for this reaction, is basically it starts from bicyclomethylated complex. This can be the catalytically active species, which then coordinate to the phenyl iodide, and then this undergo the activation to form singlet excited state, followed by the intersystem crossing to generate triplet excited state. From there, inner sphere single electron transfer can occur to the phenyl iodide species. This then undergoes the radical recombination to form a ruthenium-4 complex, which then further proceeded with the reductive elimination process to generate the biaryl complex. So this is how we start from nowhere, and we explain the entire catalytic cycle. Of course, this involved a lot of studies, but for the convenience of this talk, I have made it into a capsule format. If someone like to look into this detailed study, please go through the paper to the publication, which I have mentioned here. So if someone is interested, you can go through that. Yeah. So let me go to the next topic, which is CHRylation of fluoroarenes. This is basically my work when I did, short stay research program at Professor McGregor Group at Heriot-Watt University, UK. So this is a part of Karisma Cost Fellowship sponsored by European Union. So I stayed there for 3 months, and then during the discussion, I actually went there to study something else, but then I ended up doing this project, and then we have proceeded with this. Yeah. So here, basically, what happens is that this kind of reaction, which is basically the CHRylation of fluoroarenes in the absence of CHRylation of fluoroarenes was achieved by using a ruthenium catalyst in the absence of a directing group. And this reaction is an unprecedented reaction, which was reported by La Rosa Group at University of Manchester, and they have published in 2016. So when I joined here in this McGregor lab, what happened was that they were having the discussion of why this is happening, because in the absence of a directing group, you cannot even imagine to do a CH activation. Nowadays I think it's more feasible, but at that point it was like this is one of its kind. So they were having the discussion of why this is happening and what could be the reason. And one thing they have noticed here is that in the presence of benzoate species, the reaction happens. In the absence of it, they don't find any product. So which means benzoate is one of the factor which controls the reaction. And they have few additives. Some of them is base. So where they have found that the base accelerates basically the reaction. So they have no idea or no clue what happens. So normally these kind of mechanism like CH activation mechanism or CHRylation, the normal step which it goes through is basically the initial CH activation of fluoroaryl complex. And then it undergoes the oxidative addition of aryl bromide and then reductive elimination to form a biaryl complex. So we also start to study the same mechanism, but we got stuck at the point of oxidative addition very badly that the barrier for the oxidative addition is quite high. So we were in a step that it cannot move further. Okay, so then we have to revisit to the to each of the steps. So first what we did was we revisited the oxidative addition step. So what we thought was maybe some other mechanism can be involved in this reaction so that we can tackle this problem. So we thought to study the oxidative addition process in detail. What happens is that we have considered basically all the several possibilities with cationic precursors, neutral, anionic, and the final one which we have tried was cyclomethylated anion precursor. We don't know how it generates, what happens, but somehow we found that this kind of species makes the fissile oxidative addition. Okay, so here the barrier is 19.3, which is quite favorable for the temperature that we are working with. So now the thing is that at least we have some kind of idea about the oxidative addition step. Now, even though we have an idea about oxidative addition step, it should well go hand in with the previous steps, right? So that is why we thought to propose a kind of mechanism where initial CH activation is the same. So as I discussed before, the CH activation mainly involves the formation after the CH activation, it leads to the formation of fluoroaryl ruthenium complex, a cationic complex. And then based on our previous studies of, this kind of anion precursor, what we did was we thought to do another CH activation. So this is like a dual CH activation process. So we thought to involve the benzoate additive here and then to do a CH activation process to make it a cyclomethylated complex. And that actually works. What it does was once after the formation of this, so basically, in order to undergo the fissile oxidative addition, the previous step should be fissile. So what we understand was the CH activation, which I have mentioned here, for the formation of cyclomethylation is feasible. So that is how we reach at a point where, we reach at a point where the mechanism is feasible only in the presence of the benzoate. So that is the importance of the benzoate additive. And here, one thing I should mention is that in between, the experimental studies were going on. Sorry for the clarity of the pictures. I just took it from my paper. Yeah. So in between, the few experiments were going on. So basically, HD exchange as well as kinetic isotopic effect. So from HD exchange, what they understood was that there is a hydrogen enrichment in the unreacted the benzoate, a deuterated benzoate in the ortho position, as well as there is a deuteration over the CH bond from the unreacted the fluoroaryl complex. So fluoroaryl species. So what happens is that, so basically what it explains is that there is an equilibrium which exists basically from 1 to 4. That is why this kind of deuteration occurs. So, which means that one thing is for sure, that there is some kind of equilibrium exists from 1 to 4. And to see whether this is a kinetically relevant path, what we can do is kinetic isotopic effect. So we can take benzoate as well as the deuterated species to check whether the reaction is faster with benzoate, or does that have any effect by doing this kinetic isotopic effect. And yes, we were opting that the reaction with the benzoate is 1.36 times faster than the other one, which means that this step is kinetically favorable. So this means that we are in a right direction, and we have to look, what could be the profile diagram, energy profile diagram. So this is basically a free energy profile diagram. For those who are familiar with it, I think it would be easy for you. For those students who are not familiar with it, please don't get intimidated by the numbers. It's just that some relative numbers. Okay, so I'll explain you. Yeah, so I explain you a bit of this, what findings we got. So we started basically with the fluoroaryl ruthenium complex, and then what we end up is basically having a ligand exchange to incorporate the benzoate. Okay, this is to make the space for the incoming benzoate group. And after, what happens is that the CH activation, which is the second CH activation. We haven't considered the first CH activation step here because it was already proved that it is fissile, and we can obtain get this fluoroaryl ruthenium complex as well. We can isolate that as well. That is why we could study, all these. We can actually look into all these findings after getting the isolated one. So we were interested in what is happening next. So what happens is that the second CH activation, as you can see, after the ligand exchange, the second CH activation is very fissile. Okay, and then what we get is a cyclomethylated complex. And then moving into the further steps, what we observed was that we have to remove two of the ligands, which is acetonitrile, from the system in order to incorporate the incoming phenyl bromide. And without any surprise, we found that the oxidative addition to such carbanionic cyclomethylated, cyclomethylated anionic species, ruthenium cyclomethylated complex, the oxidative addition is more facile. And now you might be thinking, what is the role of the base? Yeah, so I have already mentioned that there is some more additives. One of them is a base. So what we found that by using kinetic modeling, theoretically, what we found that base basically abstracts the proton here, and then this leads to the this leads to the increase in the reactivity. Okay, so this makes the whole reaction bit more facile. And what happens is that also one important thing about this kind of cyclomethylation is that it makes the, after the oxidative addition, it makes the arrangement of the phenyl as well as fluoroaryl groups cis to each other, which then undergo the reductive elimination in a quite feasible way. Okay, so that is one important point about the cyclomethylation. It not only make the center electron rich to make the oxidative addition feasible, but also that makes the reductive elimination faster. Now, this is basically the capsule format of what happened in the right way. There were many things, many studies which went actually wrong. Okay. So from there, we learned to reach up to this point. Now I will tell you what were those things. So CH activation, there are several. So for those who work in the area of CH activation, will understood that there are several methods of proton abstraction from here. So out of which one is concerted methylation deprotonation, which can be either 6-membered or 4-membered, or it can be a external CMD, external CMD process. And then here also we have tried to work with our additive, which is a base, but it doesn't work. So only the acetate is making the CH activation process happen by a 6-membered ring transition state through a CMD, concerted methylation deprotonation pathway. So this is how we arrived. And the other thing which could be in your mind that, let me move back here. So instead of, so instead of this aryl fluoride as well as the, it will be better explained here. Yes. So instead of fluoroaryl as well as phenyl coupling, you could also couple the benzoate, right? The cyclomethylated species. So that is a competitive reaction. So when we checked that possibility, we found that there is a huge difference in the energy barrier, which makes the first one, the benzoate, the C6H5, the fluoroaryl as well as the phenyl group coupling instead of benzoate fluoroaryl coupling. Yeah. So that is what I have to discuss in this topic. And this, you might have observed that, this is a perfect example where how the experimental as well as DFT studies go hand in hand to, explain many of the features which were underlying in this process. So we could successfully finish this project and then explain many aspects when it comes to the corresponding reaction. So moving into my third topic, which is formation of Z allylic amine. So this is basically one of my project. While I was doing my PhD thesis with Professor Masaras at ICIQ. So I have already mentioned ICIQ before. So I belong to his group, and then we got a collaborative project with Professor Clage, who was just neighbor to our lab. So who was an experimental chemist. So he came up one nice evening, he came up with an idea about that, we have this kind of reaction and it looks very interesting. And then the following discussions were with myself and Wusheng. So Wusheng is the experimental student. He's a student from Clage group, and I belong to Masaras group. So we basically both forwarded with the study. So what happens was that a good thing about this reaction is that this is basically a palladium catalyzed conversion of. Do we have any? Okay, so I would like to conclude it soon. Yeah. So what happens is that this is basically the synthesis of highly substituted Z-allylic, multifunctional Z-allylic amine from cyclic vinyl carbonate. And what we observed is that. So what we observed is that we proposed 2 catalytic cycles where one can go through a kind of epoxide ring, and the other one can go through a palladicyclic intermediate, which is a 6-membered palladicyclic intermediate with palladium oxygen chelation. And we found that this palladium oxygen chelation after the CO2 extrusion was quite feasible to make the product Z-allylic amine. So because of the time restriction, I may not be able to explain it further. So what was the important about studying all these mechanisms? So the same group came up with, based on our findings, the same group came up with another set of a reaction, basically a lot of other findings they have found. And then I also studied the mechanism for this. It is characterized by the formation of a quaternary carbon. So this basically is very interesting. It is instead of aniline, which we have used as a nucleophile in the previous project, here they haven't used any additives. So what we found by using DFT is that there could be a possibility of in situ generation of nucleophile. This came up with the previous, this came up from the results of our previous discussion or previous project. Yeah. So I hope I could explain most of it. And yeah. And maybe I will take 1 minute, Yusuf, sorry for that, as an advertisement here. So recently I have joined IIT Palakkad. So I always like to work with experimental groups. So if someone of you are interested, I will definitely will be happy to discuss with you. And any students over here, if you would like to explore the areas of catalyst design as well as artificial metal enzymes, please feel free to contact me for the PhD as well as master thesis projects or whatever. So I have given my email ID here. Feel free to contact me. So with this, I would like to conclude by acknowledging few people. Professor Peng Liu, who was my last postdoctoral research guide. Professor Ackerman, who is my all-time inspiration to continue the research. Professor Maceras, who is my PhD supervisor, and Stuart McGregor, with whom I did my international short stay. Raghavan G. Sunoj, is Professor Sunoj, was my first guide, and he's my inspiration to come into this field of computational chemistry. With him, I did my master project while I was working at, while I was doing my master at IIT Bombay. Arjun Clage and Igor Larosa, Professor Brown. So these three people, I had very good collaborative projects during my PhD as well as postdoctoral research. And I would like to acknowledge FPU grant from the Ministry of Spain and Charisma Cost Fellowship, EMS and MCM scholarship, which I have obtained during my stay at IIT Bombay, as well as I have also obtained some scholarship from Farooq College as well. So maybe Yusuf, I'll take just 2 minutes to just go through this, as I was mentioning before. Yeah. So one thing I would like to say here to all my fellow students here, all my juniors who might be in Farooq College or all other colleges in North Kerala, like, no matter what happens, no matter which background you come from, which socio and economic background you come from, it doesn't matter. Science don't have any, language barrier or country barrier, anything. You might get the discrimination based on several grounds, but keep pushing yourself. No matter what happened, never stop at any point by the pressure of an outside person. So keep pushing yourself until you reach a goal. And in my case, one incident I should mention here, that once I finished my bachelor's and I was on my way back to home, what I see the situation was that people were discussing about my marriage. Okay, because the degree is finished and they want me to get married. I remember taking the luggage and then coming. So that time I was staying at hostel. So everything was finished and I was actually went back to my home. So I just came back with all the luggages the same day. I reached at Farooq College, I think around 6 o'clock. I remember those, incidents very clear because that was my life-changing moment. So I came back and then I written a letter to the principal. That time it was Professor Kutalikuti. So I have written a letter to him saying that I would like to stay at hostel for 2 months because I don't have any place to stay to prepare for my exams, basically any entrance exam. So he agreed. I don't know whether this chance might be, somebody else got this chance, but he agreed and I was allotted to the hostel. I prepared from there, clear the IIT exams and all. I used basically cards from all the PG students. I remember Yusuf was one of the PG students there, so I used the card from them to access the libraries and all. And Professor Bashir, who was now retired, then he was my mentor, but he is still my mentor. Any decisions in my life regarding the professional as well as personal. The first person whom I call and get the advices from him. He's still my advisor, and I am glad that he is. And then the journey just started. So what all I want to say or convey to the students is that no matter what happened, you just keep pushing yourself. Whatever your goal is, just do hard work. If you think you're not smart enough, just do hard work and balance it. That's all what I want to say. Thank you, Yusuf. Sorry for taking extra 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now the session is open for discussion.
Nothing much to discuss from my side. I was so glad to see your slides, especially the kind of details, the simplicity, and keeping the whole most of the slide open for people to think about. There are a lot of complexity in those slides, and so those who do this work will understand that those complexities. So I know your story. I wanted to just add one little thing for the benefit of everybody, is that this particular college, you write to the principal or whoever. Well, you don't have to even write to the principal. Most people have been extremely gracious. And in my case, I said this the inaugural day, on the inaugural day of the first meeting, that the books reached my room. I didn't have to go to the library. That's all that I wanted to say. I have many more things to say, but leave it.
I just want to add, actually, that was very late evening. So he's the only person available at the, institute, the college to whom I can talk with, because no other faculties were present. Because I cannot go back to my home. So I just directly went to his office and, discussed with him. Yeah.
If there is no more queries, let us thank Dr. Rosida Kunil for her inspiring speech.